What's up, everybody? It's closing time. I'm Kelly. I'm your host today, and I'm here with Mike, who's co-hosting, and we are talking with Andy and Lesley Beigel, a powerhouse couple in the lending space, who just recently got back from a climb of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. It's one of the world's most iconic peaks, and when they're not climbing mountains together, they're climbing the business world. So we're going to be talking with them about achieving monumental goals, not only in adventure, but also in entrepreneurship. So let's get into it. I want to just understand where the idea came from to do this trip, what inspired you, kind of go from the top.
It's all Lesley's idea.
Yeah. And it actually was. I think you always like to blame me, but this time it was actually me. Well, I was reading a book, actually. It's called Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. And if you don't know who Tony Hsieh is, he's passed now, but he was the CEO and co-founder of Zappos, which everybody knows. Zappos, super iconic website, right, to order shoes. And I was reading the book, and it was essentially his autobiography. He's an entrepreneur, and everybody that knows any major corporation, they just think of the success, but the book really broke down kind of his come up, and he actually had several businesses that he started, and the trials and tribulations, and he had successes before Zappos, which was super interesting, but he hit this pivotal point within starting Zappos where he was actually really close to bankruptcy and having to close his dream of building this site. And it was during the .com boom. So anything e-commerce was really complicated and just really struggling. And so he went to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. What is that? Yeah, I know. I started Googling, what is this mountain? And he just talked a lot about climbing the mountain and having all these hurdles and kind of the mental clarity that came to him. And he actually had a dream on the mountain, which was super funny, cool. Where he owned a condo in California, LA, that was worth a lot of money because he had bought it from a prior company that he sold off that he had a ton of money from, dumped it into this apartment that was so special to him because it was his first real big purchase. And on the mountain, he had a dream that he sold his apartment to help continue Zappos survive a little longer because it was worth that much money. And when he came back from the mountain, he sold the condo, and that kept Zappos going, and it was just enough to make it take off. Wow. So that was kind of that aha moment when I read it. I was like, something about climbing the mountain and just maybe pushing yourself. Have a dream. Yeah, maybe there's going to be this pivotal moment.
Sickness.
Yeah. Nice. So that's where kind of the idea stemmed from, was honestly just reading a book.
That's so cool.
That's crazy.
And so now that you know you're going to do it, do you have a timeline? Do you start packing? How does that all?
Yeah, that was a little unique because we were actually in Utah with my family, brother-in-law and sister, and mom and dad, and we were hiking through Mount Zion. I just want to be very clear that we are not hiking people. We just happened to have these moments that our family had planned this trip, and then while we were there in Utah, my uncle had called my dad and asked my dad, hey, do you want to hike Mount Kilimanjaro? I'm going in February.
So it's just random.
Just totally
not
random.
Connected. He never talked to you guys about it.
Very happenstance.
And prior that year, Lesley had turned 30 in June.
It's a big deal.
So we made a list of goals that, she wants to achieve by 35. And she had come up with this Mount Kilimanjaro idea. And I'm thinking, oh, sweet, I got 5 years to have to worry about this. It's not happening anytime soon. But my dad and uncle have hiked Machu Picchu, and they've done the Appalachian Trail and a whole bunch of other things. They're the ones that actually like hiking.
Right.
Not Lesley and I. And so when my uncle called my dad while we were all out there in Utah, my dad was like, oh, Lesley wants to hike Mount Kilimanjaro. Let me ask. And then, boom, we got conned into it about November timeline. And then we hiked in February.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you had a short timeline.
Yes.
Yeah, we had 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah. It happened really fast. So like preparation wise, we weren't prepared.
I was going to ask, like, how do you prepare in just a few short months? Like mentally, also like preparing and getting everything ready in business like, for that big trip, because you're kind of off the grid.
Right.
From what I know.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot more preparation, I think, probably mentally for us than any other realm. Like, you know, when you read about how should I prepare for hiking a mountain, because I actually read a book about it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's like,
shout out to Colleen for getting the book for you. Yeah,
I know it was good. It was about, you know, his experience, and they do suggest, you know, 6 months leading up to the hike, you should, you know, start walking, you know, weightlifting, like, because you got to carry a backpack and you're not used to that, and so you need to, like, you know, strengthen up so that it doesn't become a hurdle for you. And so there is a lot of suggestions. We took none of them. We're just going to do it. We got, you know, age on our side. We're a little younger still, so we'll just figure it out. And we, back in, you know, lifetimes before, we're pretty active people. So we didn't prepare physically for it, but just mentally, I don't know. I think for me, I compartmentalize pretty well. So I just don't think about it until I'm in the moment, and then I guess I get mentally tough where I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. Like there's no other option. You just do it, right? So that was my experience. But packing, that was something that we've learned a lot about, specifically with like waterproof gear.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because they tell, like, you're on a mountain, you're stranded, right? You have access to nothing. There's no stores where you can go buy something. There's no markets where you can pick up, you know, different foods or snacks or whatever you might need. So like that was a learning experience for us. Like different thresholds of waterproof gear.
A lot of planning, a lot of strategy. Because what are the guidelines?
You have a limitation as to how much you can pack.
Okay.
And there's a weight limit because somebody else is actually carrying a lot of your gear for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So 7 of us hiked. It was, you know, family members and then some friends and stuff. But 7 of us hiked, and we had 28 support staff for our hike.
Yeah.
And then how long's the hike?
And the hike was 7 days.
Oh, wow. So you're sleeping outside. Are you in a tent? Okay.
Yes.
A tent.
Another thing I went all in on, I have never gone camping in my whole life. I have never slept in a sleeping bag before. So that was the book, right, of things not to do. It's like, don't not exercise before going. Don't make this your first camping experience. Like, it's like, do nots. And I'm like, I think I can do it.
Yeah. So
would you recommend that?
I think,
do
you know,
or try
it's
to
kind
do
of
these.
like you're blind to what those, you know, circumstances feel like. And so it kind of helps, because then once you get on the mountain, you just realize I only got 6 more days of this, or I only have 5 more days. I feel like if we had done a lot of the hiking preparation and a lot of the camping or, you know, sleeping in a tent kind of thing, not showering for 7 days, I think we would have probably backed out, because it'd be like, this is so atrocious of an experience. Like, we smell awful, you know, we feel terrible, we're sore, that we probably would have been like, oh, we're not prepared for this. But being forced into it without having any expectations, we just kind of were able to go with the flow on it, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I also thought, like, my dad is 62 years old. If he can make it, there's no way that I'm half of his age.
Okay.
Like, then I'm not going to be able to make it. You know?
Yeah.
So besides your phone, what's the other thing you miss the most?
I would say probably really it is just like communication, because you have like special moments on the mountain where you're like, this is so cool. Like, just like to see it and you want to share it. Right? Because that's what we're used to in this world, right? It's like as soon as you just Snapchat or Instagram, you just take a picture and you share it with the world, and you can't do that. And it's like really just you in that moment being present, which is obviously like a cool thing. But at the same time, you're like, but I want to share it with everybody. And you can't yet. You have to wait till you're off the mountain, right?
Yeah.
That was like for me the one thing that I was like, oh, I want to show my mom like what I can, you know, what I'm seeing right now. And you just don't have phone signal, so you can't do it.
That would be interesting to like want to share that, not be able to, have to hold on to that, and remember, and then later on share with everyone.
Yeah, I would say for me it was kind of the mental stimulation. It's kind of boring hiking 8 hours a day, just looking down at your feet.
Right.
And you don't have anything to really work toward or focus on except for getting to the top of the mountain, but there's nothing else like mentally stimulating your mind. So you're just thinking about things the whole time, and kind of going in circles with those thoughts. But that was probably the part that I missed,
So you're
most.
meditating.
Yeah, you're meditating.
Yeah. Meditation retreat for
meditation,
sure.
yeah.
But do you have conversations? Or are you saving that kind of energy? Like, are you up there talking with your family, with Les, like kind of going deeper in things that you wouldn't have that time normally?
To some extent, but then also, after about 8 hours or a day or two of it, you're kind of like, we've talked about everything I can think of talking about. We've been forced to talk to each other for, 16 hours straight.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say. And then you can't really listen to any music either because your phone will die, and then there's no way to take pictures or anything else or recharge unless you wanted to carry portable batteries. But again, you were only allowed to pack 33 pounds of gear.
Oh my gosh.
And that includes things from 80 degrees in weather all the way to the summit, which is 0 degrees. So you have to pack summer clothes, fall, spring, and winter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the most difficult part.
Yeah.
Initially was trying to figure out, how do we pack 33 pounds of gear for all 4 seasons for 7 days?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And like your parka, which is heavy, right?
The sleeping bag is included in that 33 pounds.
Yeah.
Literally everything,
So did it get real at the beginning? Like you get there and you're starting to you're like, okay, this is real. What was
I had a moment of panic, and I didn't share this with anybody. I did a little bit of journaling because, like Kelly mentioned, you have these feelings that are really, bold, and you want to share them, but you can't. So it's like, how am I going to remember how I'm feeling in this moment? So I was like journaling a little bit. And like I stated earlier, I compartmentalize. So I kind of, put blinders on, don't really think about it. Don't, give it too much energy. But I remember taking the van from the hotel that we stayed at within the city to the mountain. And that was like a 3-hour drive. And it's just like nothing but just you and your thoughts. And that's when, for me, it kicked in of wow, we're doing this. And also like seeing how remote it is to get there. I'm like, there's no going back. Right. It's not like I can call an Uber and just leave, right? If I, need to. So it's like, once you're on the mountain, you're stuck on the mountain until, unless you get hurt or something, of course. But I just remember, for me, feeling like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. And I got a little nervous, and I'm like, I've never hiked anything really that's that intense, and I've also never backpacked before or camped, and I'm like,
you're like, this was my idea.
This is my idea 100%. And I'm like, and I'm here with all these people that I've, like, my brother, my husband, that they're there because I'm there. So hopefully it goes well.
Just all out here following Les on this. She's
I know.
Secretly in the van.
Leading the pack. Yep. Into chaos. That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yep. And then I'm also that girl that, like, I hate bugs. I hate bugs, which thankfully on the mountain, once you get above 6,000 feet, there's actually not really a lot of insects or bugs. And obviously, I'm sure you've heard of concerns with like malaria and things like that mosquitoes can carry. So that was like also an initial fear, because when we first got there and you're at the base of the mountain, obviously there's a lot of bugs. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And so it ended up working out.
Yeah, you guys are here. You look great.
Yeah, we made it. Yeah,
we starts didn't get sick.
It starts at 3,000 feet in the city, and then after your first day of hiking, you get up to 6,000. So then every day after that, there were no bugs or really anything to worry about.
Yeah.
So do they also bring oxygen or anything like that for emergency purposes, or how
they'll bring oxygen for emergency purposes, which you'll start to feel that altitude sickness. Everybody's a little bit different, but I really started feeling it at about 15,000 feet of the 20,000 feet that we hiked. And they will bring the oxygen mostly for summit day when you get up to that 16, 17, 20,000 feet threshold. That's when people really start feeling it. Prior to that, though, they'll just walk you back down the mountain, or there is an opportunity for you to be med flighted out with the helicopter. We saw anywhere from 20 to 30 helicopters during our 7-day hike.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, come and get people. So we actually were talking about this earlier. 35,000 people try to hike Mount Kilimanjaro every single year, and 2/3 make it.
Oh, wow.
So there's like
Right.
20,000 people that make it every year.
Yeah.
You know, so we felt pretty confident in our ability to make it to the top, but we also didn't know what we, were getting into or what to expect. And that kind of hit us a little bit later.
And you got to think too, like there's several different trails you can take, right? So there's different pathways up to the top of the mountain, and each pathway has different levels of like projected success of reaching the top, right? And different amounts of days. So you can hike up in 4 days, or you can do it in 7 days like we did, or you can do it in 1 day if you're super crazy, which there actually is a guy, I don't even know the name.
Wim Hof,
Yeah.
There's only one person who's done that?
There was one person that hiked to this summit in 5 hours.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Which is like
That's insane.
really insane. And when we were actually there was one person
You're like,
that
no,
was
Les,
like running.
no
ideas.
They were running. the
Yeah, we
mountain.
saw some trail runners.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
But I mean, it makes me wonder, like, would you think that, I mean, 1 day would be crazy, but would the 4 day be as bad as the 7? Because 7, you're out there longer.
Right.
You're less days, of showering.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to,
I know.
It's, you know what I mean?
More
So it's
enticing
kind
for
of
sure.
like,
Yeah, it's definitely the altitude, because with the 4 day, you don't have the opportunity to acclimate, which is really the goal of the hike. And the success projection is how well do you acclimate to, the altitude, because we would have every single day, we would hike high and then sleep low. So you would hike
the
up
strategy.
to, 9,000 feet, and then you would sleep at 7,000 feet.
so you
to
hike back
acclimate.
down?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Different, not
We're
the same
covering ground
path.
here.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Backwards.
Yeah.
We hiked like definitely over, 50 or 60 miles was, I think, the final, mileage, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're,
That's a
factoring
lot.
in the, altitude,
terrain.
it is a lot in the
Yeah.
terrain.
Yeah.
So you would hike up, to 9,000, sleep at 7,000. Then you'd hike up to 11,000 and sleep at 9,000. And then the last day you slept at 15,000.
Right.
And 18,000 is where the oxygen mask will drop in an airplane if it loses
wow.
pressurization. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Was there ever a moment where you've we've bitten off more than we can chew?
Honestly, not for me. It was like I got really nervous.
Andy's
So we
shaking.
should talk about the actual night that you summit. So you summit at midnight. It's a night walk, right? All the other days it's typical, like you wake up with the sun and then you get to your base or to your camp, and it's usually like 5 or 6, right? And so then you have dinner and it's like all normal. But the actual day that you summit the mountain, you have a short hike that morning. You get to your base camp, which is the last camp before you actually summit any mountain, and you take a nap. You eat a little, and then you get about a 2 to 3 hour big nap before you wake up and you start your summit. And that's a 7 to 8 hour adventure going up the last hitch of the mountain. And you have your headlamps on. It's pitch black out. Like that's a completely different experience and nothing that we were like truly prepared for. And then you just go up the mountain slowly. They call it poli. That's Swahili for slowly, because that is in their mind like the recipe to making it to the top is just really going slow. And sometimes that's the hardest part. There's, people that are impatient and they're like, you're just walking, go faster, get there faster.
so boring.
But then the issue is the altitude. And for me, I was expecting that I would start to feel it, like I'm like waiting for it, like where's the mountain gonna get me? And it never did. And I was like, I could do this forever.
Oh,
and
wow,
that was
cool.
surprising for me because I didn't think that would be the experience I would have. I was expecting it to be like, because I read that book and he told me like near-death experience, and that's what I was thinking I would encounter, and I didn't. But then I look around me and there's Andy and Andy's dad and my brother just like zombies and like really like kind of falling over a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, are they okay? And they were not.
Yeah, the three of us got altitude sickness.
Oh, wow.
And so we probably felt that at like 16,000 feet, maybe 17,000 feet. And it's pretty crippling, but there's a medication called Diamox that you can actually supplement with the entire hike at a low dosage. But what it will do is dehydrate you. So then you have to worry about the dehydration on your 7-day hikes if you take the Diamox, every single day to help with the acclimatization. But we didn't take any. And so then the protocol is if you do get altitude sickness, which is when your body will retain all of the water
in your lungs or your brain.
Yeah, so your brain will swell.
Which is very dangerous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then you have to just supplement with 3 times the dosage of Diamox. So instead of 200 milligrams of Diamox a day, you take 600 at the moment that you get sick. And that really helped all of us get through it. It was still rough, but we made it up. And it definitely
But that's the stuff
helped.
they don't tell you.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
What it's like, this could, until you get there, right?
Yeah.
That you really understand and learn that. What are some other things? I know you were talking about, like, the one thing I'm like, where do you go to the bathroom? Like, how does that work?
I know, right?
Yeah.
That was something I didn't process or think about either until I was in the moment. And we paid for portable bathrooms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody will carry a porta potty pretty much for you.
Yeah. But it's only at the camp, right? So like where you eat dinner and where you sleep, there would be a portable bathroom there, and it had a tent, so you had privacy. And I was the only girl, of course, on the trip. So like all parts of going to the bathroom, I'm like, it's a little bit more complicated than a guy, right?
You guys could be during the hike and be just fine.
Right.
That's,
So like during the hike though, it was like me and a rock. If I had like a big boulder to hide behind, but I didn't really, that was something that was like a stressor for me, is like going to the bathroom. So I was one that I would just hold it until we got to camp. I didn't want to go at any other point in time in nature.
Yeah. I would have been like that too. Like, what leaf is that I can use? I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good investment.
Yeah.
It was totally worth it.
It was worth it. I would do that 100 times over.
I know you said something else that was worth it that Andy got a little bit of jealousy with, was you brought a luxury item with you.
Yes. So I was, mentioning how hard it was buying all the items to pack. And you do have to do a little bit of, is it worth it? Because you're limited on weight and you have to trade out certain things. But the one thing I was like, I'm not going without this, is a memory foam pillow.
Yeah.
I love it.
I bought one that was like a travel size, so it was smaller than your standard pillow. But most people, the people we went with, they had like a blow-up pillow that you can put in your sleeping bag.
It's called a camping pillow that everybody typically puts in their pack when they go camping.
And you're so mad about it. You're like, why did I do the memory foam?
And I brought the memory foam, and I felt like I had probably the best rest because of it. And it's one of those things you don't really think about, but you are laying on gravel and rocks, and like it's the mountain. It's literally just that. So the little cushion is worth it. And there was a night you stole it from me.
I was gonna say, were you looking? It's like your survival instincts kick in, and you're like, that pillow.
Yeah.
That pillow.
I was willing to barter anything for that pillow.
Yeah.
But what Leslie also forgets is that she's half the size of a normal human. So her clothes are half the size and half the weight.
Yeah.
So
that
she
is
was
true.
able to have the luxury of packing quite a bit more than every other grown male that was hiking, which is awesome. But, I was already a pound over the limit,
What happens if that happens?
Yeah.
Do they make you get rid of a pound?
They
flexible?
Yeah, so the porters, the guys and girls that actually carry your gear for you, they are weighed every single day before they leave the camp to make sure they're not over the threshold, which for them is 65 pounds that they're carrying up this hill every single day.
Wow.
And so they'll carry about 30 to 35 pounds on their back, with a backpack, and that's also their own gear. Right.
Oh, wow.
And then they carry your 35 pounds, 33 pounds on their head.
Oh my God.
The mountain.
Up the mountain. They balance it on their head.
Are they climbing the mountain? Did they say?
They'll climb. Yeah. They said that they'll climb usually anywhere from 2 to 3 times a month with a group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's
You have to
crazy.
be in the best shape.
Superheroes.
They are.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So what was your luxury item?
I didn't have room for a luxury item. No.
No room for
All
luxury.
essentials.
I think maybe floss was my luxury. Floss, and I definitely took my electric toothbrush. But
Oh, that's right. He took his electric
yeah,
toothbrush.
but other than that, no, I didn't have any room. Leslie had a ability to pack a new pair of clothes for every single
I
day.
didn't rewear clothes. That was one thing that I did not do.
Yeah,
But couldn't
and
you
we
be like,
didn't.
throw some of my stuff in your bag and I'll.
She didn't really,
She's like,
she
"Build it."
didn't really let me
She's like,
do
"No,
that.
I
Yeah,
used
she's like, I
all
got my
30
33 pounds. Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I would've done the
it's-
same thing.
The room
Yeah.
that she had left over, she filled with a pillow.
Yeah.
Huh.
She's like,
Yeah.
I have 10 pounds left.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So when you get to the top, is it daylight? Because you're hiking at night, so it's daylight. It's sunrise,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
What is that moment when you're like, this is the top, we're here? Like, what's
Yeah.
that like?
I think for me, it was really emotional, right? Because I had this crazy goal, and like you share it with everybody before you do it, and they look at you and they're like, what? And then, there was even, I would say, like a little bit of doubt from other people too that I could do it, right? And so for me to have this crazy outlandish idea that I got from a book and to go with no experience, no really true preparation for it, and to do it and get myself there, I got like a little emotional at the top. Outside of like the idea of like I achieved a goal and that being super rewarding, it was also like breathtaking to see just like you're at the top of the continent. It is the roof of Africa,
Wow.
right? It's the highest point on the entire continent, and you're just this little human that's standing there just taking it all in, and really, just seeing the top of the world is what it feels like.
And what it took to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part that nobody
Like gives you chills.
remembers, right?
Yeah.
Is the hard work that it takes to get there. And same thing with business, right? I know we talked about that, which is, everybody thinks, wow, man, it's such an easy ride to the top.
Yeah, they're at the
So
top.
easy to get to the top of the mountain or to the top of, an industry. And nobody realizes all the preparation that goes into it. Even, when it comes to packing or all of the physical, tribulations and, efforts that you got to put into it, and sleeping on the ground, or, the sacrifices that you have to make. And yeah, it was pretty emotional getting to the top and exciting. I would definitely.
And everyone
agree.
always celebrates that part, right? Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the picture.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the one that's exciting.
It's the
you're
one
at
that
the
everybody
top.
sees.
And yeah, it's the part that everyone sees. So
Yeah.
I think that's such a great parallel to what business is like, right? Because people see the top and
Yeah.
see where you're at
Right.
and see the
The
success.
cool
and,
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And to get there, to really know what that journey's like is not
Yeah.
easy, or maybe sometimes underappreciated. And
For sure.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And doing it together, right? Doing it as a couple.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not easy,
Yeah.
right?
No, that
Building a
was really
business.
rewarding. You
Yeah.
know, in both aspects, like climbing the mountain together was very rewarding. There was one moment I think during the hike where I like felt bad for bringing Andy, because I'm like, this is like not his tea, right? This is like really far left for him, and yet he was there to support me, and that meant a lot. And even in business, it's super rewarding to be able to work together and work towards something that's common, because there was a time where we had different careers, and I didn't quite understand, like, why are you getting so stressed about this loan, like there's going to be another one, right? And like being able to actually share that with him and understand that really brings you closer as well.
Yeah. And so, Andy, like, what did you learn maybe that you didn't know? Maybe you already know this about Lesley, but what did you learn during this trip? Because you had to take, like she said, this is not your cup of tea necessarily. Like, you had to take
Yeah.
time away from your phone.
Yeah.
You had to kind of sit back and let your mind rest, or maybe it was thinking a lot. So what?
Yeah. There were really two takeaways that I had. The one that I had, of Lesley or with Lesley is, definitely not to doubt her and know that, she can achieve anything that she sets her mind to. Going into it, I was like so worried about, man, if Lesley has to turn around for any reason, I'm going to have to turn around, and all these things. And Lesley's not a hiker. Like, let's be very clear. Lesley's getting her nails done and her toes done and every, on regular schedule, and her hair appointments and all these. She's not a hiker. She's never slept in a tent. I grew up and had some of those experiences with my family. And so I was just a little worried. I was definitely, in her corner, as far as supporting her, but I learned,
him.
yeah,
You're hiking. He's like,
definitely.
Les, you good? You good? You
Well,
turn
no,
around?
and it was like me pulling him up the mountain
but
for a
he's
second.
waiting
Yeah,
to see,
yeah.
'cause he's like, because I got to turn around with you.
Yeah. For the first, 6 or 7 days, I was just double
Are you
checking.
sure you want to keep going?
You're all right, and, and then also one of my biggest takeaways was this was really the first time that we had to put our team to the test, to where we were not available. Like, no matter what happened, nobody could reach us.
Yeah.
If we're, on a traditional vacation, and we're out of the country or on a beach or whatever it is, right? We're still always accessible, right? And we've been on those trips together where it's like, hey, I got to handle this. And you take an hour or two out of your trip and you solve whatever, the issue could be. But this was the first time that for 7 days, our team just handled everything.
Yeah.
And so it was a growing moment.
And so it was an
It
incredible
was.
growing moment. And to put our trust in the team, knowing that we can't do anything about it, regardless of what happens. And then to come back and experience nothing negative happened. The team ran perfectly, and they absolutely crushed it while we were out. And that gave me a lot of confidence to know that, we're doing the right things with building the team and coaching and training, and that we also just have a badass team.
Yeah.
With some really great people that, when you're in the day-to-day trenches, sometimes you take for granted and you don't realize how much they do.
Yeah.
I think all of us are, in that boat or in that position sometime or another. But then when you are out and everything runs as is without you, you come to this realization of like, wow, they're actually a lot better than we feel like they are at times, or they, can do this without us. And, it's a rewarding feeling, and also like a prideful feeling.
Yeah. It's probably
cool.
too, like they want to make you guys proud.
Yeah.
Like this was their chance. Okay. We have to figure it out. And sometimes that notion of, okay, they are not reachable right now and they have to figure it out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth in that. So
We told them, we'll never be mad if you make the wrong decision. We'll only be mad if you don't make a decision and that costs us an opportunity or a relationship. And Daniel told me that, when I was on Daniel's team a long time ago, and, they did an incredible job of executing on that. And, we couldn't be more grateful for them. And I think that was one thing on the mountain that we just kept talking about, is like, how awesome is it that we have the opportunity to experience this, and that the team is holding the fort down.
Yeah. In a weird way, like while we were out surviving a mountain, they were also surviving a mountain of the business, right? Like they were also kind of in our shoes, but in a different way on the flip side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like we couldn't reach them, but they couldn't reach us.
Yeah.
So they crushed it.
So we got to ask, you're on the mountain. Any like tense moments between the two of you where you're like, I just got to go walk over here for a while or take a break, or no?
the
Not
pillow.
for me, because I was, yeah, I know, right? Not for me personally, just because it was my goal and I wanted to be there, right? Even though I was really nervous in the beginning, I was also excited because it's like, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But I know that there was one moment, I think it might have been on like the fourth night, perhaps. It was like in the middle. And we were in a tent because we had a 2-person tent. And I could just tell he was like super quiet, and Andy's not a quiet person. And I was like, are you okay? I'm like, I kind of feel bad right now. Like, I can tell you don't want to be here. That was like the only moment. And he was like, it's just been a long day of hiking. I just need some time.
Every day was a long day of hiking. But
that one got to you.
That one definitely got to me. I was.
Yeah. That was the only moment, though.
Yeah.
Everything, like every other moment was, I felt like good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely,
And I think also we both, outside of like the personal task of hiking the mountain and like what that gave us as far as insights and perspective, I think we both took a lot away from the people we met who essentially live on the mountain, right? Because that's their job. They do it frequently. And that was probably the most rewarding part. And that was the part I wasn't even thinking about, you know, going to the mountain, thinking that would be what I would bring value from. But
how grateful.
Yes, they are. They are so grateful. And, you know, we talk about the emotions of being at the top of the mountain and what that, you know, how emotional I got from that. There was one other moment beforehand where we woke up, right? It's one more day till we get to summit. Super excited. But all of our porters who, again, have the grueling job of hiking the same mountain that we are, but with 5 times the amount of weight, with no equipment, right? Like, we have the hiking shoes that we've done research on that are supportive and sound and the best, you know, for your feet comfort, where they're wearing loafers
or flip-flops.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And, you know,
Puts in perspective.
we're like so, you know, concerned about having the right layer so that our body temperature feels good. And they're in shorts, jean shorts, and a tank top. And it's, you know, yet, despite that, they are the friendliest, most supportive people. And like, their mission on that mountain is to make sure that you're comfortable, that you're having a good time, that you make it to the top. And I felt like, you know, we had one morning where they all gathered and they were sharing their, you know, songs and chants and just really happy. And I was like,
got goosebumps.
that, you know, like
Amazing.
that moment, I got really emotional too, because I'm like, to relive that moment, you have all these trials and tribulations like that I perceive you should have. Yet your perspective of life is that there's so much to be happy and thankful for.
Right.
And to share that with me, right, who at times would be like, this freaking mountain, like, you know, like it's getting to me. And yet you're happy. Like, that's crazy,
Yeah.
right? That's the perspective I was able to take away.
Yeah.
Of like, I need to calm down.
Yeah. Things are not that
Yeah,
serious,
yeah,
you know.
really.
A loan issue, not that big of a deal,
Yes.
you know. We can work through it and all of those things. And it is crazy because the guys and girls that were your porters or your guides, or, you know, the 28 people that supported us during the hike, we didn't realize this until, you know, later in the hike, when we were able to communicate with them and talk to some of them, because some of them spoke English and some of them only spoke Swahili. Those porters get paid $5
Oh, wow.
per day.
Wow.
That's it. To carry 65 pounds of your crap up the mountain, cook for you, to clean up after you, to set up your tent for you, you know, to
Really
carry
puts
the
it in
porta potty. It
perspective.
puts
It
so much
does.
of it in perspective because, like Lesley said, they're just so happy. They're just so joyful. And we would think that there's every reason for you to be miserable
And essentially,
Or resent us,
or
right?
resentful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and essentially, you probably wouldn't be able to, or most people wouldn't be able to do that climb
Yeah.
without them.
No, not a
No.
So
chance.
it's a gift
It is.
that they're
Not a
there
chance.
and they're, you know, willing
Yeah.
to do that because
100%.
they're giving you that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think, to end on, a great piece of advice, maybe when you're trying to achieve a big goal, if it's in business or adventure, what would you say to the listeners after this experience? Or, you know, because I know you have a lot of parallels to the business on this.
It's a good question, Kelly. You know, I think the biggest thing with any goal is that you just have to have the mentality that it's going to get tough, right? Just know that going into it. Anything that's worth it, it's going to be hard, right? So it's going to be tough and you have to go through it, right? You have to go through the tough part in order to get out on the other side. And if you're not willing to go through the tough part, then you're not going to make it to the other side. And, you know, that should just be an agreement you have with yourself.
Love that.
That's kind of my takeaway.
I love that
Yeah.
because it's, you know, so many want the summit. They want
Yeah.
the top, but unless you're willing to go through what you have to get there,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say definitely the biggest takeaway for me would be, you know, if you believe in something and you put it out there for the world to hear, like it will happen, you know, and that's how it was for business for me. I always knew that I would be successful and I would be able to achieve something because I just believed in it so firmly. And I talked about it so much that it was just like the law of attraction, right? Like I am going to get to the top of this mountain because I believe it. And I put it out there for the world to see, and it happened, you know, and the same thing happened with my business. You know, I was telling everybody that I was going to be the number one loan officer in this company when I was a loan partner.
Yeah, right? I remember.
And, you know, and I'm still chasing Daniel, but, you know, I just remember that kind of mindset and that kind of confidence in myself that like, if I believe in something and I say that I'm going to do it,
yeah, and I think then other people believe in you too because you're saying it, and then they see the actions. They see you grinding.
Right.
So people want to be part of that too. So I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely not.
I would do it again.
Girls
if it
trip.
wasn't for the travel.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. The travel's really, that was the grueling part for me.
Yeah,
like,
it's 25 hours.
It's such a long flight.
That's
so
crazy.
if I could get there in like one day, like 8 hours of flight time, I would do it again. I would do it with you, Kelly.
Yeah, we'll do something where we break it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe on the way back we break it up.
There
like
you go.
a
Stop
little
in
spa
Amsterdam.
Time, a little spa time.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
Leslie owes you now. Like,
I know,
I know,
right?
I know.
Yeah, think about
What's
that.
your next big bucket list item? You how are you going to top that, Andy?
I don't know. We don't really have anything set in stone yet, but
you'll
figure
think
it
about
out.
it.
Yeah.
We'll come back here.
Yeah.
We'll
Yep.
talk about it. So
Until
we'll save
next
that.
time.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
save that for the next one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll keep in touch on that. I'm excited to see where you guys go. So
Yeah.
not just in adventure, but you know, business too, because you guys can do anything together, really.
Definitely.
So awesome.
It's cool to see. It really is.